The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program, and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Hello, welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
I'm CJ.
And I'm Carlos.
And we've got some breaking news for our region. As many people are probably aware, I did report on this earlier this morning, Sam's Club Fall River is closing on February 5th. The store is closed currently today, and they will reopen tomorrow to start their liquidation process. I was on the phone moments before the show started and went on the air with Sam's Club Corporate. They will refund the balance of your membership fee. You can go to the store or call their 800 number. Now, for those of you who have what's called a Sam's Club Plus membership, here's how Sam's Club's gonna shove it right up your backside. Sam's Club Plus reward dollars, those are actual dollars you get for spending money there. You're able to use them 60 days before the expiration of your membership or your membership renewal. Now, they will not allow you to use them until that date. So they are suggesting that you keep your membership open until the 60 days before your renewal cycle and then spend those dollars online. Now, the problem I have with this is, why should I have to spend my dollars online with a company that didn't see fit to keep themselves in our region? Because not only are they closing Fall River, they're closing Seekonk and Warwick. So we don't have a Sam's Club anymore in Fall River. This is a Kenny Fiola triumph. Because remember, Sam's Club and Walmart were the big thing a few years ago under Mayor Will Flanagan. And when I spoke with a vice president early this morning, who reminded me that, do you know what time zone I'm in? And I said, you should be awake, you're closing stores. He said that the Fall River store will be closed today, January 15th, 2016, as are the other stores, and they'll reopen on January 16th and we'll start the liquidation process. Conversations have proven that this store was created with a multi-million-dollar capacity, and since its opening has failed to meet income predictions. I think we talked about that, Chip, at one time, didn't we? That this was like a ridiculous thing to create in Fall River, a business that is dependent upon disposable income.
Yeah, I mean, this great, this amazingly difficult concept that the people that our Office of Economic Destruction can't grasp is that you can't have businesses that are solely basically dependent on people's buying discretionary items, or 80 or 90% discretionary items, when people have no money. You don't see Gucci bags opening stores in economically depressed areas. This region, the entire region, has always been an economically depressed area. You can't operate multi-million-dollar stores and high-end stores in these demographics. And the only way to change that and bring in business is that really crazy idea of allowing people to keep some of their money and not pay it in taxes so they can actually go to stores. So, it's something that we knew would ultimately, just as, being negative, as we always are, not being, practical or pragmatists and looking at things objectively, I predicted that Jerry Remy's would be sold, and it was. It's changed ownership, and maybe the new owner will keep it as a tax write-off, but these kind of higher-end things just don't survive in Fall River. whether it be a high-end steak restaurant or whatever.
We're no frills.
You know, the bottom line is that, you know, we have to change. Well, number one, we have to stop bringing in people with no income, and we have to try to get people to work and get people to have more discretionary income.
But you know, that's the problem. And I mean, that's the problem with this region. That's the problem with Fall River. Our state delegation loves to allow other cities and towns to dump their low-income problems onto Fall River, onto New Bedford, onto Lawrence. We are the 351st out of 351 cities and towns as the lowest income. That means to any business looking to locate the Fall River for retail, for restaurants, they say, can't go there, there's no money. There's no money. And that's why we open in Fall River pizza joint after pizza joint after pizza joint, okay? Because there's no money. There's no money. How much do we have to, how many times and how much do we have to slam it into your head? Kenny Fiola, pull the corks out of your ear. Understand, there is no money. There is no jobs.
And as much as, you know, we'll get into the reorg, I guess, very shortly, but as much as you know, the mayor wants to talk about his, well, you know, we'll get to that, but the fact is, in talking about a real estate guy to bring in people who, you know, let's face it, what multinational company is going to come to Fall River? I mean, look at it. I think last night or the night before last, I don't know even know if it's hit the regular news yet, but I talked to a police officer friend of mine that said there was a stabbing on Alden Street near Quikasham, and some woman was carving up some guy in the middle of the street. So, you know, these are the kind of things that we see every day in Fall River. I talked to, actually, I was on a line this morning with CJ talking, and we ran into one of our regular viewers, and he was telling me about somebody, you know, going into his yard in the middle of the night. He had to call the police, and you know, these are the kind of things that happen every day in Fall River. And you know, yet politicians love to create this diversion. You know, we've got Linda Pereira running around, let's market the city. Well, okay, what are we going to market? We got two guys sword fighting in the middle of a convenience store like Star Wars, that everybody in the nation's probably going, what kind of city is that? The guys are actually, like, you know, having a knife fight, you know, on the counter. It's bizarre. But we have to fix our city. And that means prioritizing public safety. You know, we have to get a handle on crime. Our priorities are upside down. I mean, I look at the things that they suggested. It's just not going to work. You know, it's not going to work. We have to try to shrink government, give people money, make this city a safer place, and then we can begin to rebuild. But first, we've got to take our city back. You know, I say stay angry, but we've got to take our city back. Our city is not the Fall River. As much as they try to pretend this is Fall River of 25 years ago, it is not. We have to take our city back, because every time you see somebody getting arrested, about 90% of the time, you'll find out that that person was not born and brought up in Fall River. They came here via Boston or via some other community.
Brockton,
Lynn, Lawrence, they're from everywhere. And what they've done is they've turned our city into a dumping ground. And until we take our city back, we're not going to succeed in fixing this city.
On the Sam's Club, I have to say that what I said before Sam's Club opened, please don't stop shopping on the small stores. Because these big stores are just about money, making money. They don't care who lives next door. They don't care who you are. When you shop in a small store, you are called by name. When you shop in a big box like this, a big store like this, you are called by a number. They put a picture and a number. They don't care about the name. So when, and
sounds
if they don't make the
Nazi-esque.
money, yes, and if they don't make the money, they don't care about you.
Obviously.
Okay? And so It's the same thing that I'm saying about Amazon. Be careful. Keep buying on the small store. If you haven't returned, you can return with no complications, because on these big stores, you go there, they ask you for the receipt, you don't have the receipt, you don't have, you need an ID, you have an ID. They always find an excuse not to give you the money back, okay? You spend the money, it's gone. So that's why I keep saying, because of Sam's Club, we probably closed some small stores, okay? And they are struggling to survive. So let's keep buying in a small store.
But you know, Carlos, the thing is you know, you speak about that, and we got to kind of wrap this up. But you approached Sam's Club. I even helped you approach Sam's Club, not even for money, just to use the land for a carnival. And to this date, they have never gotten back in touch with us. So you have to say, how dedicated were they to our community anyhow? Now, Sam's Club has always touted itself as being, when the members ask for things, we carry them. I've been asking them for 2 products that I have to drive out to Seekonk to get, that's one of the reasons why I shopped at Seekonk, by the way, is because the Fall River store never provided anything, and people would go in there and not spend a dime. They would go in for the free samples. It was free lunch. It was the buffet, as the rumor mill had it in the place.
Well, the restaurant closed.
The restaurant's closed now, yeah. But, you know, this is what we're finding. Now, this is going to be a huge eyesore on the face of Fall River. And if Kenny Fiola wants to redeem himself, he needs to find out from Walmart, because Walmart owns them, okay, what can I do to get that store occupied, to take the 140 plus people who work in this store off the unemployment rolls? Because there's 140 people that are now out of a job, okay? And they're only going to have a job. They didn't even give us a month. Today is January 15th. On February 5th, they're closing the doors, okay? That's not even 3 weeks away.
Yeah, well, big box stores, big conglomerate stores, as Carlos said, they don't care about people. All they care about is their bottom line, and when their bottom line's affected, they're gone. They disappear. And you know, and you hit it right on the head. You know, I mean, Fall River has to rebuild itself. We have to take back our city. One of the things is we have to, you know, realize that, you know, for us to get better, you know, the future is in small businesses. They keep talking about trying to get these big box businesses in, but they're always transitory. The fact is that in the old days, when Fall River was a city that had people that worked, they didn't make a lot of money, but they made money. And the city was filled with small businesses. I remember when I was younger, people used to have a credit at Shalmore's Furniture, and they'd get a paycheck every week, and they'd go there and they'd pay Shalmore. And everybody owned furniture, and everybody bought things, and we had a ton of stores.
Good furniture.
And very good furniture. And you know, but people spent money. There were small businesses on every corner. You could walk up the Pleasant Street. It was just like Main Street. We had tons of stores. Why? Were they making $1 million? No. But everybody was making a living, and we had a city. We had a city that was safer, and we had people in it that cared about their properties, and we had a much lower crime rate. We have to bring that city back. We have to take our city back. We have to stop bringing in no-income people. We have to make the city attractive for people who want to come back into an urban area and have a store that they can walk to and do it. And I truly believe, Carlos, you hit it right on the head. For us to get a better Fall River, we need more small businesses, and we need to support them.
And you know something, the money they use to, and they dig into one business, if they use that same amount of money, South Main Street will be full of business. Pleasant Street will be full of business, because the money that was spent over there was enough to fund, you know, 100 business.
Yeah, but in order to keep them in business, we need to put money back into people's pockets.
That's right. That's the cause of the problem.
That's the problem, the root problem. You know, you can get the money to start up money, but in order to stay in business, you need a customer base that comes and shops every day, every week, and buys your prop. And you can't every time you turn around, get whacked with another fee or a tax, and have people, as you know, trying to say that, look, we're the poorest city in the state, and it shows.
Yes, it does.
We can't maintain businesses. So
Well,
with
let's-
that, let's wrap this up and
Yep.
go to the biggie.
Okay, well, let's go real quickly. Bristol County, and Fall River is part of Bristol County, has made the next great claim to fame, the high-intensity drug trafficking area. And of course, they gave us more money to attack drug trafficking and opiate addiction. That's enough said on it. I think it's ridiculous, but hey.
Which is why we don't need a drug czar. There's more money being pumped into
Exactly.
opioid stuff. So, and we are a high traffic. I think our first priority, rather than sending police officers to do follow-ups, I think our police officers should start doing what they're being, and they do it, and I know they're doing everything they can, because I know a lot of them, stopping the high trafficking
And you know,
of the drug.
I said this yesterday at a meeting. One of the things we need to do is we need to do like East Providence does, and like other cities that have low drug dealing situations. We need to have a show of force. When you get stopped by a police officer in Fall River, you're lucky if you get 2 cruisers to come by for one guy to back up the other. And to me, that's dangerous, okay? But let me tell you something. Even little old ladies can sometimes be a little belligerent. But in East Providence, when you get pulled over, you don't get 1 car, you don't get 2 cars, you get 5. It's a show of force. The drug dealers know, don't go to East Providence. Make them come to South Providence. And even in Providence, Buddy Cianci did it. He kept them all on the south side of 195. And he's like, if they come over the bridge, send them back. Now, people say, oh, well, that's, profiling and da-da-da-da-da-da. No, if you do it consistently with everything, it's not profiling. And I think a show of force is necessary. And I would rather take the money that you want to throw into drug czars and bull and new positions. I would rather throw that into more police officers and more firefighters. Let's reorganize the police department and the fire department so that we get more firefighters and more police officers on the streets and less in the seats.
And
Because they work hard and they know what they're doing.
That has a ring to
And
it.
I only have to say one thing on this issue. Please stop spending my money in people that don't want to be fixed.
Thank you. Thank
Okay?
you.
That's the only thing I have to say this.
And I
We
think
have
that's...
a lot of ways to spend this money in the good ways, better than spending money that don't want to get fixed.
That's
they don't
true.
want it. So
Exactly.
let's stop it.
Yep. And like I said, tattoo it on your forehead.
No argument from
And
me.
finally, in the last 8 minutes or so of the show,
Oh, God. We can't, we're going to have to do this again on Monday because
the reorganization of the city. This is probably, the Herald News has already said, oh, this is wonderful, this is wonderful. Let's talk real quickly. Assessor, gone. Chief Financial Officer, Treasurer John Nunes, gone. We won't hear anymore. I don't have that information, but I'll get it to you to the next meeting. And we're going to bump people up in those 2 departments, the senior assessor up to a new position with a permanent pay increase of $7,500. Now, notice the word permanent, okay? So if we hire a different assessor, is he going to take a pay cut of $7,500? I don't think so. Same thing in the treasurer's office. And then, of course, we have chosen Her Royal Highness, the Goddess of Finance, the only person to ever adequately represent the budgets of the city of Fall River and her office, the glorious and holiest Mary L. Sahadi, who over 30 years has represented the budget and done the audits on the city of Fall River. And when Hagen Asadi had to give a sworn testimony, I will leave that line to Chip. What was that amazing line, Chip, about the assessment, about the audits on the city?
we're talking about 91 and all the way back to 91 when Hagen Sahadi, and they did them for almost 30 years, I believe,
Yep.
in the city of Fall River, their company. And that's the first one when we found it was almost $2 million that was was put in the city account that was employee money. And under examination, and I have the depositions if anybody wants to question it, Mr. Haig, it was Bruce Haig who was actually testifying. He was the one who did the audit at the time, but his company with Sahadi said it was not in fact an audit, it was a reconciliation, and that's what they're doing now. Listen, first of all, let me say, because you're going to say, everybody's negative. I will say that I was encouraged by some of these things.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Zero-based budgeting is, I think we're on the right track, but, words and proposals are not good unless you follow through. A zero-based budget is a concept we've been calling for years. Now, you can call it a zero-based budget, but if you don't really make people justify every single penny, it's just a zero-based budget in name only. So a lot of these proposals, I think we're going, I think it's a good start, but we're going to be watching because, and I'm going to disagree, I think we do need someone to look over the city finances, but I don't believe it's Mary Sahadi.
Neither do I.
Mary Sahadi and Haig and Sahadi audited this city for decades, and for decades we found 5 accounts in the healthcare system that had been dormant for 25 years. Been dormant, no activity. How can you audit a city and not know that there's 5 accounts with money in them that hadn't been touched in 25 years? They missed a $2 million error that employee money was put into the employer account when they did they call it an audit. This is why I don't think this goes far enough. I think we need a forensic audit. I don't think we should hire someone who's, I believe she's on the board of the Fall River Housing Authority. We don't need someone who's been involved in the past errors that the city's made financially, and whether they missed them or they just didn't, they did a reconciliation. A reconciliation, for the record, is not an audit. It's just like you got your numbers and you make them fit. You reconcile the numbers. You say, okay, this is what we spent, and this is and you put all the numbers together. It's not a true audit. It's not an audit at all. It's a reconciliation. So, do I believe these departments should have been split? Yeah. But you eliminate 4 positions and then say you're going to give somebody else $100,000 to replace those 4 people. We're not shrinking government and saving a lot of money. I think this is a good beginning. I'm gonna commend the mayor. So remember that, we're not being negative. Zero-based budgeting is a good idea. I agree I agree on a lot of these points. Some of the people, as I said, I don't believe that they hired the right person.
Yeah, but $25,000 for a marketing person?
Yeah, okay. Again, there are parts of this thing, but let's not let, they always condemn us to say we never see anything that's right. I think zero-based budgeting is exactly the right thing to do. But we're going to be watching to make sure
but
there's a true justification. Yeah. There are a lot of things that are right about this, but they're only going to be right if they're followed through on and done correctly.
But Chip, let's also remember that this isn't true zero-based budgeting, because they're going into this right away and they have employees. So they have salaries. So those salaries are in there. And we have to make sure that the mayor justifies every single salary,
he did
every
say
single
that,
position.
And I'm not defending him, but what I saw, and I watched it.
Yep.
He did say that they were gonna start at 0, and they were gonna have to justify every single expenditure, which means jobs. That's what I want to see.
So do I.
I know every single department has redundant positions. We have a lot of fat in this budget, and this is why I say, to talk zero-based budget and to apply zero-based budgeting is 2 separate issues. But I commend him. He's the first mayor we've ever had with the courage to say the words zero-based budget.
And in all fairness, I tried to figure out how a position of 98,000, because remember, we're adding new positions here, okay? So how could a position of $98,000 for the new DCM department, okay, be justified? He said he's terminating 4 middle management people. Well, that would mean that those 4 middle management people make about $25,000 apiece. And I said, I know that's not right because the trash men make more than that. So I sent an email out this morning to the mayor's office asking for the specific positions being eliminated. And I did get a very prompt response. I must say, Faust Fiore is very rapid on returning the emails. And I said to him very clearly, I said in my email, I need to know who these positions are so I can look up the salaries and find out the justifications. Now, if it's truly middle management people, I'm not going to call the mayor out on it and say, good for him, we got rid of some middle management people. But if they happen to be a trash collector, that's not middle management. And I'm going to calculate the salaries, because if the salaries equal $98,000 plus or minus a couple of thousand, okay, great. But if they don't and he has an excess there, wonderful. Is that going to be a savings, or is that money going to be used for other positions?
Well, you're going to have a hard time convincing me that middle management positions are paying $25,000.
Exactly.
Four of them comes out to $100,000. You're going to save a lot more. But I got to get back to this. Like I said, we've got to learn, and we're not learning from these mistakes. It says here in the Herald News article, we agree with Correa who said Pacheco's background as a skilled tradesman makes him well-suited to oversee the building and maintenance rather than the wide-ranging Department of Community Maintenance responsibilities. Well, I agree, but I want to remind everybody that by city ordinance for the last forever, 50 years, the DCM has had the sole responsibility for maintenance of buildings in this city.
$1.8 billion this year.
It's not a question of this is something new. The question has to be asked, where was the oversight on DCM by the city council or by anybody or by the department head that allowed these buildings to fall in disrepair to the extent they are now over the last 20 years, when in fact they were ordered, they were commissioned by a city ordinance to maintain those buildings. So it's not that we didn't have these things in place. We get back to the same old, same old. Nobody pays attention until government by crisis again. But even though they were commissioned to run it, and a guy that by their own admission is skilled at the building trades, well, why weren't the buildings looked at?
And the question is, where did the $1.8 million go for the maintenance of these buildings? $1.8 million a year. Where is it going? Who's spending it? What's it being spent on? Don't get me wrong, I think money's being spent somewhere. The question is, who's spending it and where?
As I've said before, everybody wants, all these advisors, and I said, the mayor needs all kinds of help. No, he doesn't. We've got department heads making a tremendous amount of money, 6 figures. Well, now he made it $98,000. It's like $9.99. It's not really $10. But I can guarantee you, I'll look at his contract, and he's got a few other stipends that brings him
of course,
well over $100,000.
Longevity pay,
yeah, longevity and
uniforms,
and sick leave buybacks and things like that. But the fact is that it's not a matter of reinventing a wheel. All the things are in place to do the jobs in the city. The fact is that the department heads have to be held accountable by the mayor to do the jobs and do the job that they were hired to do. If you look at the city ordinances, building maintenance has been the purview of that department for the last 50 years.
This is true.
So stay angry and let's do zero-based budgeting.
There you go. And Monday, BCC, 8:30 is the Martin Luther King breakfast. We will not be on the air on Monday. Have a great weekend.
We'll be watching, Mr. Mayor.